Hi, everyone. Today I'm talking to Madhav Bhandari. He is the head of marketing at Storylane. Madhav, welcome to the show today. Thank you so much for joining us. Tell us a bit about Storylane and your background there.
Yeah, so I run marketing at Storylane, and which is sort of like the first agentic demo automation platform that's out there. So yeah, we sort of help folks create product demos, which are like self-serve that buyers can sort of interact with. Think of it like a front-end replica of your product without the back-end sort of attached to it. And you can actually create these demos in 2 minutes. That's what we sort of like. I mean, we're very proud of that as a fact.
That's
So yeah.
awesome. And so you have been in a number of different marketing leadership roles, but for now, let's kind of focus on Storylane here. What have been your biggest wins and challenges that have worked in or not worked in driving growth for you at Storylane?
I think one has been like just investing in the brand. I think that's done fairly well. I think we did about 3 quarters of very heavy brand work, and then after that, it sort of started showing very good results. And then I think another thing we did was like our SEO strategy is relatively unique. We sort of invented this thing called demo-led SEO, which sort of helped us grow our traffic to about we're currently at about 225K a month with our search traffic, and is driving lots of good deals and signups. I think those two are pretty good ones, I would say. Yeah, I mean, we do a bunch of like these sort of innovative campaigns. Yeah, and then even like with ads and all, I think we do fairly well. We're very active on LinkedIn, whether that's organic social or paid social or working with influencers, all of that. So these are, I would say, like the big channels that work for us.
Awesome. Yeah, I mean, before we dive into the search play a little bit, because you have a very cool playbook for organic search, which I definitely want to talk about a little bit more. But yeah, let's talk about this branding play first, right? So, because what are when you say like we did 3 quarters of branding work, what did that entail? How did you how do you measure it?
So I think what like it sort of started as a conversation with my CEO in the sense that like interactive demo as a category is like it is still relatively new in the market. So
Hmm.
there's very few companies that actually have demos. So there's plenty of like greenfield opportunities that are out there. You don't have to sort of be in that same battleground with competitors. There's just so many more companies where like there's just no demos and everything. So that was the original goal. So how could we reach like those companies and like that sort of like if we did that well, we could sort of hit like whatever revenue target we had set. And then I think the next thing was like how do we sort of reach this? And then I think another sort of conversation partly that was also happening was so we were sort of like the top three players in the market. But a lot of times what would happen is that we would not be the first vendor that the buyer would actually speak to. So what would happen is they would speak to one or two competitors, and then they would speak to us, or they would not even speak to us at all, right? So we wanted to change that. We wanted to change that to us becoming the first vendor that they discover. And like we've usually seen, the first vendor usually gets a very heavy weight when they sort of ultimately
Hmm.
purchase the product. So it was just with these two things we started, thought like let's, maybe brand is a very big channel in the sense like there's the with ads, SEO, everything, there's sort of a limit, but with brand it was just like practically like we didn't see a sort of ceiling for that.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's what we did. So what we started out with was just like for us initially it was like how do we enter into like for the lack of a better word, how do we enter into like these elite circle of like the top 30 folks, that talk about different brands that you see on LinkedIn, or the folks that you admire, right? So yeah, I mean, the first thing we did was I started like a, I'd say like a podcast series, and we started really sort of spending a lot of time on thought leadership. Like I started posting on LinkedIn quite, aggressively. We started sort of speaking, maybe get paid placements on podcasts and all of these different places just to sort of drive our thought leadership a little bit.
Yeah.
So we invested a little bit on that for about a quarter. And then what we did was we started sort of investing a little bit on events as well. So we started like going to events and start doing these unique activations, which I can talk about at some point. And then after that, like it was just I think those 2 quarters when we sort of invested in those things, I think what we saw is that like our brand searches in terms of like on Google Search Console, somebody searching for the keyword Storylane, the impressions and clicks, that's probably the best way for you to see how the brand is sort of getting impacted in the sense like anybody like whatever brand awareness you do, ultimately the end point is them visiting your website, right? Or searching for your name and then sort of visiting the website, right? So Google Search Console allows you to sort of, filter by query, and then you can find like how your brand searches are growing, right? So we saw like, certain patterns like, at this particular event, we had like a
Hmm.
4x increase in brand searches and all of that. So that investment for about 2 quarters led to a sales pipeline that started sort of, like really hitting quota and like really sort of helping us sort of hit our targets. After the 2 quarters, I would say, right? So, and I think that gave more belief that let's just invest a little bit more on brand. So that was the journey.
Yeah, yeah, and that's really powerful too. Have you as part of the leadership, but the whole leadership team buying into this idea that hey, like this is going to take some time because I think that's a lot of the challenge that a lot of marketers face is when you talk about brand and brand building, it takes some time. I mean, it's actually awesome that you guys were able to start driving pipeline, as soon as sort of 6 months in, because I think a lot of brands struggle to get to that level of ROI, as quickly as that. But obviously you have a fantastic product in a market where there's a lot of demand for that. So that is awesome though. I love that you guys were able to drive that. So then let's transition a little bit to your search playbook because you've talked a little bit here on hinted at organic search. But having seen some of your other posts and interviews that you've done, you have a really interesting way of utilizing deploying organic search tactics. So tell us a bit more about that.
Yeah. So I think Swordland's been around for about 3 years, and I came in about 6 quarters ago. And I think when I sort of came in, like I come from a background from SEO, like I mean that's how I started my career. So that's the thing that like I'm probably like the most sort of technically proficient at. So I sort of came in and I was looking in one thing that like my like we have a PLG product and then we have a sales led product. And for PLG products, you just need a ton of traffic for the conversion rates to do its magic and sort of drive the sort of PLG revenue. So that was the conversation my CEO came to me. He's like, listen, right now, whatever traffic we have, we were at something like maybe 10,000 traffic coming to the blog, and then like some other like smallish pages. So we're roughly at about 20K traffic monthly. And this is like, the sort of, I would say the work of like 3 years, right? And no matter like whatever sort of increments we would make, it'd be like go from 20K to 22K, 22K to 24K. It was like too slow. So my CEO said, we need to figure out some sort of other, maybe some sort of a growth experiment. And one thing that been sort of, in our minds for a while now is there's just that everybody on Google keeps talking about, hey, you should have, text on your page to be able to rank, right? What if, you could just remove the text and just add an interactive demo, especially in an age where like content is just the cost to create content is practically zero at this point. So like
Hmm.
everybody's creating great content, and like there's only so much you can do to sort of hit there. So yeah, so we wanted to look at an opportunity where we could drive like maybe 1 million in traffic a month, and also like find a cluster where interactive demos could be supported on the page and where we could also potentially get customers. So what we did was we started looking at like so we sell to sales, marketing, pre-sales, and we started looking at all of the tools these personas use, right? So like for example, for marketers, it was like they use Canva and they use Notion and they maybe use Google Analytics and Search Console. And then we started looking at all the sort of tutorials that they're looking for, right? So how do I merge a custom field in Salesforce, right? Or how do I, create a GIF in Canva? Like all of these different queries with like 10,000 keywords. And then we just, yeah, create the page. The experiment was simple. We tried with 100 pages, remove the text, just have the interactive demo. That's it. Which sort of explains how to sort of, create a GIF in Canva, for example, right? And so we tried that, we pushed it out, and I think like half the pages were like ranking in the top 10. One out of the five pages were like ranking at position number one. We were sort of beating Canva, HubSpot, everybody. And like the traffic sort of just immediately zoomed up. So we were like, we were in,
Hmm.
found it super interesting. So yeah, like and then we sort of built out a process. Like there was no way we could create like this many pages monthly on our own. So we sort of hired a bunch of contractors and built like a process. So at this point, we're generating about 300 pages a month. With the help of like these 4 or 5 contractors. And right now we are at something like maybe 5,500 pages uh, in total. And I think there's not been a single month where our signups have dipped or sort of stayed flat, right? Like it's like if I could show you the graph, it's like a hockey stick curve, really growing really well. But I think what surprised me with the demo-led SEO experiment was just that, and just for numbers, is like, in March 1st, 2024, we were at like zero traffic from these demo-led SEO pages, and right now we're at about 220K a month in traffic from these pages. But what's interesting is our PLG revenue almost sort of tripled over the course of like whatever, like it's now been a year now. But then what we saw was like because we were targeting our persona, there were also like all of these enterprise companies that were seeing these pages. So out of actually those, like it was not the intention. We started getting a bunch of enterprise deals, sort of getting, close from it because there was a way they were discovering. They were seeing the page, they saw the demo, and they were like, "Oh, this is cool tech. Let me sort of explore it." So that's why it was like, I think it was probably like our biggest growth win of 2024.
When you say interactive demos, are you talking about you just had a video on that page, or was there more than a video on those landing pages, or is there more than a video on those landing pages?
No, no, so it's not a video. So an interact demo, sort of like think of it like a iframe, and in there it's sort of like a bunch of screens stitched together, and then there's like these beacons that sort of guide you to the next step. So
Yeah,
the
gotcha.
goal is not uncover the next piece of information unless they actually engage with it. That's why the
Got it.
engagement rate on these pages is like super
Yeah.
high.
And so this is actually built using your product then.
Correct. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, which is obviously awesome because then you can show off the product at the same time. So really interesting to hear about this strategy where you're basically providing content, helpful content for marketers, for your audience, but it's not necessarily you're not describing your product. You're just showing the product, right? That's what you're saying. It's demo led. So when you're targeting these keywords or topic areas that aren't specific to your product, so for example, you're talking about Canva, you're talking about I think saw you talking about Zapier as an example of they kind of did that too. But you're talking about these other brands. Um, are you still seeing even today that that continues to be an area where like the likes of Google and AI search engines are giving you those rankings and are giving you that traffic. It continues to this
Yeah,
day.
exactly. So
That's
that
awesome.
was the real sort of everyone said that, listen, you're gonna publish these pages and it's sort of gonna go up and then it's gonna go down.
Yeah,
It's a to the point where it's like I said, I think I would say the traffic over the last 2 or 3 months has not gone down, but it's sort of like growing slower than earlier. But we've
sure.
been talking to a bunch of consultants and they're all saying that what you saw in the last 9 months is extraordinary. What you're now
Yeah,
seeing is normal. So
yeah,
so we've sort of reset our expectations a little bit, but yeah, it's
yeah.
it's it's moving strong. Yeah.
Yeah, that's fantastic. Because I mean, I mean, one of the big stories relatively recently was, HubSpot losing 80% of their traffic because of, their blogs that were talking about a lot of interesting things, but not necessarily related to the core product. So,
Yeah.
I think, well, it seems like here, you've got this like massive engagement rate. Do you think that's what made the difference, or is making a difference, or do you think there's other factors here as well that might be, still ensuring that you guys are ending up on top and continuing to see the success.
Yeah, so I looked at a couple of things. One is I think so the like when content is practically like everybody can sort of create it, there are a couple of other ways where you can differentiate, right? Like one is definitely page experience and time to value, which is where we are sort of winning. So all of the pages that you see, that's why I say like the demo category doesn't have a lot of awareness. So like
Yeah,
most SERPs that you see, most or like literally practically every SERP that you see, top 10, nobody has a demo in there. And so what happens is that like it literally did like there's a 10-minute sort of article, like, like those articles have like this reading time that's there, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
You know, well, that's actually a 10-minute read, and we have an exact same page that's like less than a minute, sort of a demo that covers it, right? So if you have that sort of a quicker time to value, and we sort of live in an age where everybody wants snack content, there you see sort of like this, like we looked at sort of like the data of these pages, right? So the time spent on page is like super less. I think it's like 15 seconds on average for all of these pages combined, as compared to like the traditional sort of blog or any just standard page. It's about a minute. That's the sort of benchmark. If you look at the bounce rate, however, the traditional sort of page is like at about 70% bounce rate. That's the common thing. You can also ask your peers about it. We are at about 23% with these, the bounce rate, right? So that's where you start to see a little bit of magic happen. People are not
Yeah.
leaving the page, they found the answer and they sort of, whatever, went to Storylane or sort of, went to their app and sort of did the work. And then the third thing was the engagement rate, right? Like that was something interesting, right? So usually what they would see is they would just scroll through the content and then sort of leave, right? Here you can't scroll through it. You have to sort of engage with like that beacon to be able to find the next information. So the engagement rate of a standard page is about 23%. Ours is at about 80%. Like
Yeah.
practically every visitor has to see it. So I think that quick time to value and paid differentiator sort of helped us. Like, none of these companies like Canva and all of their tutorial pages and all, they're like big blocks of text,
Yeah.
like it's like screenshot text, screenshot text, screenshot text, right? Nobody
Yeah.
has a demo. And until they don't sort of implement it, like we're sort of winning, I would say.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah, that's awesome. It's just so cool to hear of something so unique. I mean, I'm obviously thinking of like, this is very interesting. Like, how could other companies try to obviously not do the exact same thing, but yeah, kind of use this kind of thinking to do the same. And I think there's a lot of opportunities there. Maybe not with demos, but with other ways to really sort of engage the right audience with helpful content, but not necessarily, make it a product page. Um,
Yep.
so yeah, that's really really cool to hear. So in terms of measurement, when you think about how you guys are going from those demo pages to then somebody puts in a lead form or books a demo with you guys, how are you measuring that? Is it a pretty short journey, or do you see like people are going from that demo page to like a bunch of different product pages and they come back later? Like what does a journey look like and how are you measuring it?
Yeah, so I think there's two things. So one is like when you have sort of a PLG product, the journey in most cases is relatively linear. And so what we have in those pages is like we have this thing at the top, which is like this page was created in like 5 minutes using, Storyline, right? So it's like a subtle sort of shout out to Storyline, right? So we have about I don't know. I'm trying to remember, but I think it was like 1.2% of the people would click on from these pages to actually signing up. So like the visitor to sign up rate is about 1.2%. And with the blogs and all, it was 0.8%. But like the magic was like the blogs were generating 10,000, this is generating 200,000, right? So obviously the signups proportionally sort of increase. So yeah, like people just sort of go in, they go check out the product, then they will sign up for free to Storyline. And then what's going to happen is that the ones that are like sort of looking for like just an implementation, most of them will just sort of go upgrade, pay like where's the paid plan is like $50 a month. So they'll just buy it, and then we can see that. So we use HubSpot, and we can see like number of signups, number of sort of paying customers sort of that have come from it with like a first touch attribution or last touch attribution or a mix of both, right? And then I think what was interesting is like our team was sort of like it was me and like my ops person. We started looking at like each of these deals, and we started looking at like are there any that sort of converted into enterprise, and there were quite a few of them that actually not just sort of signed up but also booked a demo with our sales team. And then you can actually see like the whole conversation, right? So there's like a company which is like currently in talks, which is like a 30K deal, right? So there was like a handful of these enterprise companies that are coming in every month, and it was growing, and it was fairly easy to track. It wasn't hard at all, I would say. And then of course like there is sort of like this unattributable impact as well, right? So
Hmm.
the best way for us to be able to track that was like how like how are our brand searches growing, right? So like we could again see that in Google search console, right? Like from February, where we literally had no demo pages, to like March, April onwards, right? we could see that jump in brand searches. It wasn't
Yeah.
drastic, but it was like sustained sort of growing. So like at this point, if I were to just give you like for context, from Feb last year to now, our brand searches are roughly up about 5 to 6x. It was a mix of the brand stuff, which we did probably like we started seeing the effects probably later in the year. And then the demo-led SEO stuff, which started sort of giving results like probably early in the year and then sort of sustained and then like all of that. So yeah.
Yeah, super exciting, super exciting. What do you see for the future of search? Are you planning, I mean, you said you're still building out a lot of these pages. You're continuing to build out a lot of these pages. What do you see as the future of search, especially in an age of AI-led search where, we're moving towards a lot of zero-click searches. Obviously, that's been going on for a while, but the Gen AI-led search trend has sort of exacerbated that. What is your view on that?
Yeah, so right now, another interesting sort of point that we're seeing is like we're seeing about 5 to 10% of our leads sort of coming from Chat GPT. Like somebody actually discovered Storyline through like whatever their research through Chat
Yep.
GPT, right? And I've been like I talked to a bunch of SEOs. I just believe like the SEO for like from our perspective, there's just two major things that's gonna happen. See, content quality and everything like that is like given. Like you need to have that there. But what we are going for is one is like we're really investing in our brand, primarily also because I think in search, when you sort of have that sort of AI search overview, and then you have like the top three results that show up on the right, right? You will most likely click on the domain name that you actually are more familiar with, right?
Yep.
So that's like one sort of play that we want to continue doubling down. Like the more our brand has awareness, the more clicks we'll see from the AI overviews, and the more we are sort of protected from this whole sort of AI thing. And then the second thing is, I think page experience is definitely a big differentiator at this point. There's tremendous opportunities, not just with the standard demo-led SEO pages. We're also experimenting it in our bottom of the funnel pages, and we're seeing very good results, right? We're experimenting, like it's just a different way to educate in your different sort of blogs, right? So page experience is another, I think, one. I think these two things are like probably the next big evolution, in my opinion, in search, like brand and page experience. And that's at least the direction we're thinking.
Fantastic. That's such good insights. I think it'll be really helpful for our audience to learn from you. If you when you think about like who you're following, what are some kind of the two or three gurus or authors or streams of thought that you're following to keep track of the trends and learn about what you're going to do next? What are kind of some of those people that you would recommend?
That's interesting, I didn't really think about it, but like I've just opened up my feed and I'm looking through it. I really like Alina Vandenberg, who's like the co-CEO at Chili Piper, right? She's talking a lot about like how they're sort of building like AI agents and their team and all of that. Like I think she's pretty interesting. I really like Amir Atley from Hockey Stack. He talks a lot about like this revenue driven marketing. There's like a lot of like playbooks that you can just sort of copy paste, and it's really well done, I would say. Like you can actually see the results for them. I think that, and then I mean, I think there's just a bunch of people. I'm just sort of scrolling through. Like maybe I would say Ubaid is also another good one. Ubaid, what I like is Ubaid Durrani works at Clay. What he's talking about a lot is around like how brands like I think he's like a veteran in brand. He's spent a lot of time, and so he's talking a lot about like what are like the new things that you can do on the brand side at this time, and just a lot of different things that like you can't get an answer on chat gpt or through interviews and all. Like he's really sharing some unique information. So I think those are three I would say right now.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. And if folks wanted to get in touch with you, what's the best way to reach out to you?
Just connect on LinkedIn. Yeah, so I'm at just search for Madhav at Storyline. It should be easy to find. Yeah.